when they were on the railroad and they cut to a wide shot where it's clearly CGI'd people on a CGI bridge on a CGI background. I almost lost my shit during that 2-second shot. I almost lost it. I was like, don't cut to that. What are you doing? It looks terrible.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Millenniotic, the podcast, where a couple millennials discuss society, entertainment, and the logistics of life. I'm Jason Bell.
I'm AJ, and this is our 10th episode. We are in double digits now.
Yes, we are.
So in order to catch any of our previous episodes, you can see them all on YouTube, or you can catch us on any of your favorite podcast apps, as well as follow us on social media. We post clips for the Too Long Didn't Watch crowd, and you can get links to when a new episode is live.
Yep, you can. So this week is a little bit different. We don't really have like an actual like podcast topic or nothing like that. This weekend we went to go see a movie.
We did.
Yeah, what movie was that?
It was not Star Wars.
No, it wasn't Star Wars.
It wasn't Star Wars.
No,
I wish it was Star Wars, but it wasn't Star Wars.
It was the hit musical Cats.
The hit musical.
Musical Cats, based on the 1981 Broadway show of the same name that ran for 18 years on Broadway, 21 years in London's West End.
Yep.
So
it was 8,949 shows in London.
Yep.
That's nuts.
Grossing $3.5 billion by 2012. By Andrew Lloyd Webber, based on a book, Old Possums, or a book of poems, Old Possums,
right, by T.S. Eliot.
Cats. Yes.
T.S. Eliot in 1931 wrote a poem book for his grandchildren.
Yep.
And it kind of just blew up from there.
Yep, so and it turned out Andrew Lloyd Webber was a fan of that and Cats,
right.
and decided to turn all the poems kind of into. He composed like all the music based off of the lyrics,
right? For
all like these like little poems. So it's like almost like
it got
nonsense.
converted. It got converted like 40 years later or something like that into the songs and stuff.
But like, needless to say, I think like everybody knows like the main song from it, and that's "Memory."
Yeah.
And it's just. Boy, was this movie something.
So, do you want to start with some of the actors that were in this movie? Because it was quite a list of high-profile actors and actresses and celebrities in general.
Yeah, I can definitely say one of the few that I definitely knew her name was Rebel Wilson.
Rebel Wilson was there, yep.
I did not need to see that woman scratch her crotch. Oh, not once, but twice. Like,
oh my.
They like lingered on that shot twice in this movie.
It was a nice low up angle, so you could just get all of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even need to see that from my own cat, needless to say.
Yeah, exactly.
From a woman pretending to be a cat.
That was kind of like the weirdest thing to me in this whole movie. But it got 18% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Jeez, I haven't even looked at those
That's
Rotten
not great.
Scores.
Star Wars is about 59. But Star Wars is pretty controversial.
Yeah, it is.
But, you know, there's definitely movies that are out now that are in the 90s for Rotten Tomatoes. So that really shows what they think. And society kind of thinks the same.
Yeah.
Right? So the actress and actors list for this movie include Francesca Hayward. She is the main cat, I guess you would say. She is a principal ballerina.
Yes.
So she's not actually an actress or singer, really, you could say, but she's a ballerina, right? And she did some great dancing.
She did. That movie had some good dancing. Yes, you
could tell that she was definitely a ballerina.
I could almost tell if it wasn't for like how many cuts were happening in the middle of any like dance number.
It was kind of like watching a trailer for an hour and 50 minutes.
It really was.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we got Francesca Hayward, and then let's go with somebody else you guys might know. Taylor Swift. She was in it. Idris Elba, Rebel Wilson, as you mentioned, Judi Dench, M from the 007 movies, and then you got
your girl,
Jennifer Hudson, Ian McKellen, right? James Corden even made an appearance, and Jason Derulo.
Which honestly, I didn't mind Jason Derulo.
I was actually, the only thing I was mad about Jason Derulo was the fact that he didn't actually say his name in the movie.
That's true.
I really needed some auto-tune. Jason Derulo, you know, that's what I needed from him.
Yeah, I kind of took like another gripe. I honestly felt like he could have been in it a little bit more. Because as far as I can tell from that character, it is like an actual main character. Unlike Taylor Swift, who was just kind of shoehorned into that movie.
Yeah.
Just to be Taylor Swift in this movie and sell tickets. Like, his actual like character, I guess, has more speaking roles and is a bit more silly. And I wouldn't have minded seeing like an actual like singer like kind of be comedic, like kind of like show off their chops, because he didn't do that bad in his actual like musical number, but it was just like, my God, why did he have to have? There was something that I noticed about those two as well. They both like did fake Cockney accents. I'm like, why do both these characters have fucking shitty British Cockney accents? I'm like, did you really have to? Was that like a creative choice that they had to make?
I don't know, dude. Because this was based in England, right?
Yes,
like
it was.
the entire movie is in England.
Yeah, they mentioned
so,
like the River Thames numerous times.
Yeah, so I think that might have had something to do with it, for sure. But it's disappointing that it came out the way it did, I guess you would say.
I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like you can take creative liberties with your movie. You don't have to do an accent if you don't feel comfortable doing it.
But you can't have an American cat.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
My cat's American. She's a cold-blooded. She bleeds, or these colors don't run, sir.
My cat actually bleeds red, white, and blue.
Exactly.
By the way, yeah. Just like Colgate toothpaste, pretty much. So it's quite a number of high-profile actors and actresses in this movie.
Yes, it is.
For how badly it bombed, is there another movie you can think of that had like this kind of cast that really just failed so hard, especially after having such a successful run on another medium, which was Broadway and that kind of thing.
I don't know. I can't really think of anything like right off the top of my... Oh, wait. What's it called? Not Atlas Shrugged. It was a movie about like 3 or 4 years ago. It was like a big like sci-fi
Atlas
movie.
3D or something?
No, it had Tom Hanks in it.
I thought it was named Atlas something.
Nah,
right?
it was something like that. It was by the same people who did Cloud Atlas. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it was by the same people.
Because that was based on a book, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
but like it was like a book that didn't really have like similar to Cats. It was a book that didn't really have like a cohesive narrative. It didn't like go from point A to point B, and that's like my big problem with this movie and why most Broadway musicals fail when adapted into screen, especially this one, is just it's more about the performance. It's more about the actors communicating with the audience. And as far as I could tell from the actual Broadway musical, they break the fourth wall in like the first like 5 minutes. Like the first song, like where like they're introducing themselves, like the first numerous songs that are just back to back to back. Like this is a new character.
I didn't get a chance to breathe in between musical numbers.
No, and that's because it's just like within the first 5 minutes of the musical, they realize that they're communicating with a human audience, so they're going to introduce you to all these jellicle cats. And all I could think of whenever they say that name is testicle cats.
Oh my God!
When I think it's...
I was thinking gelatin cats. I don't know why.
Which I think is like it's supposed to be like angelical.
Yeah, that's what definitely.
I mean? That's like the best like interpretation.
I guess you could say the general plot of the movie is that all of these cats were trying to accomplish one certain goal, and that was becoming the jellicle cat, aka reincarnating into a new life.
The jellicle choice trying to go to the Heaviside lair.
Right. So that everybody was just singing their own numbers in essence for Judi Dench for them to get chosen.
Yeah, exactly. Which they're trying to prove how good of a cat they are in order to be reborn. They're trying to show off
also why they
their
needed
personalities.
to. But also why they need to, because the magician cat, for instance, was really good at magic but super shy.
Yes, he
right?
was. Yes.
So that was kind of his thing.
They have their own falls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know, that whole movie is just a mess. Like I said, I was when I went into that movie, I was trying to, because I heard from most people this movie doesn't have a plot. So I was trying my hardest to understand the plot.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand the plot until after I watched the actual straight to VHS 1998 Broadway production.
Which was actually directed by the same guy who did this movie.
Yes. Was it really?
Yeah, Tom Hooper.
It was Tom Hooper who did that? Damn, because he did a much better job.
So what he did, because what that film was more of a Broadway being filmed.
Yes.
Less than just turning people into cats, which kind of just weirded me out right away.
My God,
was the animations
it was so bad.
of the people as cats.
Yeah, it was just awful because so the thing is One thing that really bugged me about like the animation style is like how the heads are still smooth and they put the ears on like the very tops of the heads. So it's like, you know that there's supposed to be human ears here.
Yeah.
But instead there's ears on top. Most of the close-ups of like the actual humans, you can see the makeup like where it stops around their mouths, especially like Judy, like the older ones, like the wrinkles, like Judi Dench or
Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen. Like
Yeah.
you can see like their makeup lines.
Yeah.
And it's just ugh.
And that's because it had to be patched, because when they originally came out with the trailer, it got ridiculously hammered online.
Yes, it did.
Like everybody and their mother had an opinion about the animation in that movie.
Which I think we saw it without the patch.
Really?
I think we lucked out in seeing it without the patch. Hey, kitty.
And there's
you wanna
also
come up here?
now there's a cat
We're
joining us.
talking about
How-
cats.
How?
Welcome.
Oh, and then she's gone.
Yeah, she's gone.
But that's kind of funny.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, I think we saw without the patch because they mentioned how like Judi Dench's hands, they're not like fully rendered, and you could tell they were very humanized aside from like where the sleeves cut off.
Yeah.
So it's just like, ugh, it was just so bad.
Yeah, that was pretty much like my biggest problem was as soon as I got in my head that I didn't like this animation, it made it really tough to watch the rest of the movie. And that was kind of my thing. And like, I understood the plot. I understood, you know, the music numbers and why certain things were happening. But like, there was just something about the animation just bugged me throughout the entire movie.
And I feel like the animation is honestly like what made it so that me as a first time viewer of this musical didn't fully understand some aspects of the plot. Like
yeah, it was too distracting.
Like the main character who ends up like ascending, going to heaven, Grisabella, she in like the actual Broadway musical, her costume design is completely different.
Oh, okay.
And it helped me actually understand the character because so basically in her original costume design, she's wearing like a really sparkly dress. She's like a diva. She's like a diva who's past her prime. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
She was cast with like a much older singer as opposed to Jennifer Hudson. So her song is basically like, it's this old actress. Like it's basically like Marilyn Monroe if she lived to be like 60 and past her prime.
Right.
Where it's like women in like music or anything like that. Like, you know, like Britney Spears. All like these women who were like overly sexualized. Once they've like passed their prime, quote unquote.
Right.
They're like cast to the shadows, which is what she was.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that from this movie because of her costume. Like, I just, like, they even say it's like, oh, she, like, joined McCaverty, like, who's, like, the main bad
That's
guy.
the villain, right?
Yeah,
He's
which-
trying to become angelical by
Yeah.
just getting rid of everyone else.
Which is, like, that plot line doesn't even exist in the actual Broadway musical. So
that
it's
was
just
totally just a
yeah.
reason to have,
Yep.
was it Idris and
Idris
Taylor
Elba.
in the movie?
It really
that was really the
Yeah.
only reason.
Was just to kind of, like, get him into the plot smoother. Where it's just
Yeah.
like, and that's the thing with like that Grisabella character. She's supposed to kind of contrast with Ian McKellen's character, who's an old man, who's
Yep.
used to be this great actor, who's now past his prime, but he's revered because of it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, so that whole aspect is
Yep.
like missing in this movie. I don't see it while watching it. So it's like, if you're going to completely throw away that whole plot line, what is the point of making this movie? I ask you.
They kind of just made it to make it, right?
Just to capitalize on the music.
They wanted to be able to capitalize on the music, like you said, but I think they also wanted just to try some things out in CGI
Yeah, it's true.
wise. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously all of these people didn't actually dress up as cats.
No.
You know, they were all
yeah.
CGI'd fur and ears and whiskers and all this kind of stuff. That was all I was looking at the entire movie.
All of
that and the green screen.
That and the green screen.
The amount of green screen they used that I could tell that they used was just all over the place. Because there were just, it was to the point where there was too much CGI and it wasn't meshing properly. That was the issue I had. For instance, the railroad number
God,
that
it was
they
so
had
bad.
when they were on the railroad
Yep.
and they cut to a wide shot where it's clearly CGI'd people on a CGI bridge on a CGI background. I almost lost my shit during that 2-second shot. I almost lost it. I was like, don't cut to that. What are you doing? It looks terrible. I
so
understand why
bad.
you're doing it because you're showing them like walking across and it's a silhouette,
And
but it looks terrible.
And Mr. Tap Dancing Cat tap dancing around, but it's
Right.
just like you can see their feet clearly, and it's just
Oh my
on
God.
such a terrible stage.
So that was pretty much my biggest issue, was just like all of the animation and the CGI. It was too much. I feel like I would have enjoyed the older version where it was more Broadway.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like you understand that they're dressing up like this and they have to act a certain way. But I think they look more human in the Broadway version.
Yeah.
And I could connect to that more than them kind of going halfway with the human and the cats.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
It's
kind of
too
what
much.
bugged me the most.
Which is like that. It's that whole issue with the Uncanny Valley where like something is too CG, but also like too close to human that you can just tell it's fake.
Yeah.
And it's just like it just bugs you like crazy.
And that's only
yeah.
a first world.
Yep.
Like that, it has nothing to do with how the movie came out or anything like that. That's just like what I see. And that's just what bugged me the most. It doesn't mean that these people who worked on the movie did a bad job with what they were given.
No, it's
I'm
true.
sure they did a great job, and I'm not like crapping on them.
I mean, you always think
But what
about
I'm
it.
saying, it was too much for what I think needed to be done for this movie to succeed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just I was able to kind of get past like the faces and like the actual thing. I could not get past the background. Like at all.
backgrounds
That
are
green
really
screen was
something
just so distracting and awful. And it's like all these people who are like working on like this big budget movie and stuff like that, like that's great for them. That's great for their careers, but at the same time it's just like you have to have this on your resume. It's like that's kind of
Do you though? Do you?
suppose.
I mean, a lot of celebrities and people who are in this movie didn't really like even go see it or like recognize
like
the
half
fact
of them
that they
didn't
were
even
in
go
it.
see the movie.
Yeah,
Yep.
they
Yep.
were just like, "Oh man, this isn't going to be good," and they could tell right away from when the trailer got flack. You know, and like it's not the only movie that has an animation like that got flack. Like Sonic. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out, they had to redo that one
Yeah,
because
they redid
people
the
were
whole thing.
upset. Wasn't Detective Pikachu?
I think so. I think they did like
similar?
some kind of. I think they did.
They
something.
changed it from the trailer.
Yeah, they didn't like some like the models of like the Pokemon. I think they would like it's because like they were like too ugly or like too realistic, so they may have made some changes. But as far as I could tell, they didn't really change too much with Detective Pikachu.
Okay.
But Sonic is definitely a great example of just
Yeah.
an overhaul of animation. But like they completely overhauled everything.
I couldn't imagine like your boss coming into a daily, which is what it's called, a daily
yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
and being like, "All right, animators, you got to restart. We don't like
Everything.
this. We need
Yeah.
you to reanimate this entire movie. Start with the model. I expect it by noon. Good luck."
Oh my
like, I
God.
couldn't imagine.
Because like
that.
the amount of hours that goes into like 10 seconds of like animated footage, especially 3D models and stuff like that, takes fucking days.
It takes a while. I
Like,
wouldn't say
days.
days because the programs they're working in nowadays are
That's
pretty
true.
good,
Yeah.
as well as the computers they're working on are definitely meant to handle this kind of thing. But it's not an easy process regardless. The program itself is very complex.
But also, what about like render time and stuff like that?
That's what would be the longest
Like,
part,
it's
would
like
be
they-
rendering it all out.
like that's just nuts.
So like you spent all this time rendering and now you just like you're sitting there waiting for approval and then all of a sudden you have to redo it.
Redo everything.
I would hate that.
Yeah.
I would
Just scrap
absolutely
everything
hate
from
that.
like the front down. It's just awful.
So one thing that I also had a problem with in this movie, and it comes back to like the characters, which is the main character, I guess you could say, the most main character was Francesca's character.
Yes.
I don't actually remember.
Victoria.
Victoria.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's so bad. I have everyone.
She got
memorized.
dragged into every single
Yeah.
number.
Which
But she didn't need to be, but it was the only thing, in my opinion, that connected one thing throughout the entire movie, right?
So that kind of like goes back to like my point about with Broadway, where in a movie characters are interacting with each other, where in Broadway musicals they're interacting with the audience. In the musical, they break the fourth wall. They realize that they're talking to humans, and they're like, "All right, these are all of our cats." This Victoria character, she did not play as like a main character. They shoehorned her in as the main character and main like focal point for all these cats to be talking to. So like that's kind of what, like, as far as I could tell, that's what they had to do. They had to make this character who didn't have many lines or many like plot points or anything like that, and make her
and
as
not a real actress either.
No.
So it's not something that you could just like throw her in and give her a ton of lines and a ton of songs.
Yep.
Like it's one thing because she's a ballerina.
Yeah, she is.
So you could give her a bunch of dance numbers because she's done the Nutcracker.
Yep.
She's done all of these great ballets.
Yes.
But when it comes to acting, it's completely different. I think she did a great job with whatever acting she had,
it's true.
by the way.
Yeah,
I think she was fine in this
Oh
movie.
yeah, absolutely.
But it was just, there was a lot more that I had issue with when it comes to her character, which is pretty much why is she in every single number when it's not really relevant, other than the fact that you're trying to connect yourself with one character to get dragged along in this entire movie to have a connection to.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what you bring up, which is, you know, the Broadway interacts with the audience where the movie they have to interact with each other. So what they were trying to do is get the audience to be able to connect with one character. And that one character was supposed to be in every number, which was Victoria. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's how they did it.
That's exactly how they did it. Yeah. And it's just like another like difference is like from like the musical, it was all one set. It was all one scene, junkyard, with no real scene transitions. So
Yeah.
as far as I could tell, that's probably why they used the green screen, was just because it's just like, how do we make this into like some big epic story?
It would be, I think for them, it was easier for them just to CGI everything than it would be to build the multiple sets and stuff like that. Because they were like in the streets, they were back in the dumpster, they were in random people's houses, they were in an abandoned theater, they were backstage, they were on a boat. Like they were all over the place. So that was a big difference. And I think that's why they just went CGI, because it's easier just to do it in post.
Which is like, don't get me wrong, you can tell that there is some set design, like when they're in like that house and stuff like that with like that big ass bed, like that's there, that is creative, but you don't notice the actual good set design because of all the fake that's going on in the background,
because of the cloud of CGI that's around it.
Like,
right?
It's nuts. You can't like there's nothing about this movie that you can appreciate, and that's why it has an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Like, you're not given a second to breathe between all of these fucking cats introducing themselves. Also, I noticed one thing. It's just like, I love it how the first number with like that Victoria girl, they basically say she has a slave name. Like there's a song where they're like, oh, how do you name a cat? And they're just like, oh yeah, my name's Victoria, and they're like, oh, that's the name that your owners gave you.
Right.
Like,
yeah, they said every cat. What I had a problem with that number because they said, all right, every cat has 3 names.
They only give 2 names.
But they gave 2 names, and they didn't even give Victoria another name.
No, they didn't.
I was like, what the heck, dude?
So what is the point of
You
this
just
song?
left me hanging. I was like, what is this character's name that I'm supposed to know? And then like,
yeah,
it just never came.
Like, that's what I mean. I'm like, oh, maybe like the third name is just like saying it's like, oh, like that's like who you are inside. But it's like, why? What is the point?
I guess they gave the generic excuse of your third name is a word that only means something to you, and it's something that you can make up, right? So like everybody in that kind of vein can just create their own name. I don't know if they were doing that because they were lazy or if they wanted the audience to think.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was just they didn't want to figure out more names and stuff, and they were just worried about getting the production out. So I brought up a point earlier when we were talking about how in this movie they were kind of like half cat, half human, right?
Yes.
One thing that really, really gave me like goosebumps and the cringing feeling was when they gave affection to each other, because
the nuzzling.
Because yes, that's how cats do it.
Yep.
But when you look that much like a human, it really, really creeped me out.
Oh my God, I know.
That was also another problem that I had, was there were just like, it was just random affection everywhere, and I was like, oh my God, this is so weird.
I know, it's uncomfortable is like the best way to say it. And it literally like made me like slouch in my chair
like
every single time that something like that was happening.
Way more than like any other romantic scene I've seen. Like way more
like
cringe.
Ian McKellen's character when he's like doing his number and like Judi Dench is like getting like all hot and heavy.
Oh my God, dude.
And I'm like, he's gay. I was like, dude. You're barking up the wrong tree. Or should I say meowing?
You're meowing up the wrong post.
You're meowing up the wrong post at Sir Ian McKellen. What are you doing?
I understand that you want to show affection with the cats. I would have felt more comfortable with them actually just kissing than I would have with them like nuzzling up.
Yeah, a little
because
bit.
they didn't look enough like a cat for me to do that. Because for the most part, they were on two legs. They were walking around on two legs.
Yeah, they're bipedal. Yeah.
So if they weren't on two legs and they were on four legs, I would have felt maybe differently. But then it's weird if they were like that, you know?
Yeah, I know.
So, like, I understand why they did that. It's just one of those things, though, where it's like they're kind of pushing the boundary of what people are going to accept to watch, right? And I think that was one, which was the affection and the CGI and all of that kind of just go. I think it was too much. But now they know. I wonder if there'll be another musical that kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what musical would, though.
Honestly, I feel like they need to start coming out with like more original music movies. Because I remember like in the trailers, we saw that our like local movie theater was going to be like showing like
An American in Paris.
Yeah, an American in Paris. And you were saying how it's just like, God, I'd rather be watching that than this. Where it's just like, those are music movies that were designed as movies with music and with musical numbers.
Not the other way around.
Not the other way around. And I feel like if you want to have musical movies, start doing that more. Like, that's an issue with today's society.
I wouldn't mind a musical movie. I just don't really want to see a musical.
Yeah, no.
It was too much music, I think, for me in the Cats.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to make sure they included as much as they could, which I understand. But I didn't think that was the way to go.
No.
Because I want a breather from all the music.
Yeah, exactly.
And acting is a good way to do it. But I have a feeling some of the characters or some of the actors and actresses they hired weren't maybe comfortable acting.
Yeah.
Or the writing wasn't there.
Yeah.
So they either had to cut it out and we're just like, let's just go from music number to music number because that's the only way to keep this movie engaging.
Well, it's like, this is a musical that just doesn't need to be adapted into a movie because it is like, it's not even so much of a musical so much as it is like an opera / ballet. Like, it had a lot of dancing and a lot of music. It doesn't really have a full plot. So it's like, why, like I said, why even make this into a movie?
Yeah, pretty much with the plot thing. For me, it was every character had a small issue, and by the end of their musical number, it got solved.
It got solved.
That was pretty much.
Yeah, that's true.
That was pretty much what I understood from like.
Or kidnapped by Idris Elba.
Or something happened, right? There was some sort of ending to what their problem was. And most of their problems were they didn't like their lives and they wanted to be reincarnated and given a second chance, right? So that's what a lot of the numbers were.
Which is like, what's wrong with your life as a cat, man?
I wouldn't complain.
No, I wouldn't complain at all.
Unless you, I mean, I understand everybody wanting a fresh start. I don't think cats need that.
Nah.
That's just me, though.
No.
I can't connect to a cat as much as a human.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to bring up, and we kind of touched on it earlier as well, which is the public opinion of the movie and how it actually affected the end result.
Yes.
Right? Because the trailer came out and it got a lot of flack for the animation. We mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
So we also mentioned the Sonic movie had the same thing. The trailer came out and they had to reanimate it. So the point I want to make is that the internet is the way for the mass, right? Us regular folk to have our voices heard in a more direct way nowadays. So I think people kind of jump on the bandwagon of
talking shit,
crapping on something, and just because there's a mass amount of people doing it, so they think it's okay to do it too. Yeah,
which I don't know if necessarily it's a good thing. Because it's
really not. It's a really very, very bad habit.
Because the thing is Sonic, regardless of whether the animation is better, it's still going to be a shit movie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like, I already know the plot of that movie because I've seen enough 90s movies, Fish Out of Water, like where it's like what was it? I think it was like a kid in King Arthur's court. That's pretty much what it is, where it's just like a character is taken from their home world, brought to Earth, and it's 90 minutes of runtime of this character interacting with the modern world. It's like, what's the point? Like, who cares?
They're just trying to get
like, it's not a real Sonic movie, according to Sonic fan, or it's not going to be what Sonic fans are expecting of a Sonic movie. So who cares about the animation? Why are you messing with these people's jobs and making them work harder?
That's a movie.
Yep.
And some of the Star Wars have done this recently, I think. And they are creating fun, I don't know, 90 to 2 hours. Star Wars are sometimes longer. They're just trying to create a fun experience for the viewer.
Yeah, it's
They're
true.
not trying to cater to these people who are hardcore purists.
Exactly, it's
right?
true. Yeah.
And that's kind of some of the problem that we have with this online thing is that you get all of these purists that want a thing a certain way, and if anything changes with that, they're going to crack, and they're just going to leak out all of this crap that's just in their brain online, and then all of a sudden it gains traction because it's so negative.
Yep.
And even though it's something that doesn't need to be changed necessarily, all of a sudden all of these people are just rising up for the meme, right? Because that's kind of what it turned into, was a meme.
Yep. It's true. It's yeah. And it's like,
So that's kind of the biggest problem I had with this entire Cats movie, whatever you want to call it. Like, the entire experience is the fact that it got so tampered with before it even came out and before I got to see it.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
wasn't able to go in there clean slate and be like, all right, I wonder how this is going to be when it comes to, adapting a musical into a Hollywood movie with CGI and all this kind of stuff. It got super looked down upon, crap talked online. You couldn't help but go in with the mindset of it being, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah,
and I'm just going to go and see how bad it is.
Yep.
All in all, it was okay.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that.
It was okay.
I didn't mind it that bad.
Am I going to want to get my 90 minutes back? No. I think it was fine.
Yeah.
I'm not a musical person. I probably just shouldn't have seen the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's kind of my thing. Is if I didn't see it, I wouldn't have been mad.
Yeah.
Or anything.
It's like, it's not in my taste. I wouldn't have gone to see this if it wasn't
Yeah.
for just the actual overhype of it. I'm not a huge this is not my demographic of movie. But as far as I can tell, people who actually enjoyed the original musical or are fans of the original work don't mind the movie as far as an adaptation goes. As far as being loyal to the subject matter or anything like that. It's just that the movie looks like vomit.
So if you wanted to go see a musical with a lot of famous people in it that you could connect to singing songs that you liked, this is kind of the movie for you.
Yeah,
if you were if you're into Broadway and into the musicals, and you go and you see Taylor Swift singing a song for Idris Elba, it's kind of cool, right? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Musicals aren't my thing, and I had a lot more issues with everything except maybe the actual music and dancing content in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Because for the most part, the choreography was great.
Yep.
The music numbers were fine.
Yep.
I didn't have an issue with that. The issues I had were everything visually. So that was kind of the point I wanted to make about how it all got crap talked online and how it didn't necessarily need to be, and how in general today, a lot of that happens. When it came to the YouTube Rewind last year, was it or something like that?
Yes,
it got
it was.
downvoted so much.
Yeah, it's the most downvoted video
So they
on
they
YouTube.
removed that and disabled comments.
Yep.
Or whatever, and then this year they were they enabled it, and they were just
pretty
bring
much,
it on,
Well, the thing is, they also abandoned their old format completely, because apparently
I guess,
the YouTube
it's
Rewind
different.
used to be they brought in all of these people, but instead now it's just they show clips of videos.
Yeah, it's a best of.
Yeah, it's a best of clip show now.
Yeah, it's a compilation less than original content, I would say.
Well, more so they brought in they were trying to bring in their community to basically make a commercial for YouTube, and now it's just a best of clips thing. So they have impacted it. The fans have impacted it, but it's you kind of ruined what it was originally.
Right. So I would say just do your research and form your own opinion before anything you see anything online, especially when it comes to all of this negativity that you see and all these memes that come up. Like, yeah, you can enjoy a meme, sure.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't crap talk somebody's hard work because you don't necessarily like the way it looks.
No.
Some things are okay to keep to yourself, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's okay to keep quiet, and it's one of those things that's the biggest issue that I have.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you don't need to say that. I understand some of the hate. I just don't like hate.
No. Yeah, that's true.
Even though I am kind of like a negative person, I don't like to hate things unless it's like really, really bad. I just rather dislike something for a particular reason.
Yeah,
I
that's
like to
true.
rationalize my dislike and my resentment towards things.
Yeah, by actually going to go see it. Like
Right. We went to see the
we went to
movie.
go see this movie, and I
So
know
we
why
could talk about
what
it
I didn't
better.
like about it.
We could have easily just like watched some trailers, read some stuff online, and recited it.
Yeah, exactly. and
This
just,
is
like,
our
reacted.
this is our opinion that we came up with
Yep,
for this movie.
it's true.
So I'm sure that was relieving for you because you could stop thinking about this movie.
Dude, we were supposed to record this video like 4 days ago. I've had nothing but cats on my mind.
It's pretty bad.
I've been waiting to get all of this out.
It's going to be great when I have to edit it and watch it back again.
I'm so
And just
sorry.
be reminded of everything.
I know.
It's fine. But next week,
Yes.
we want to talk about a boomer versus millennial kind of topic again.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go with pet peeves. Something that everybody can kind of
Everybody
relate
can
to,
relate to,
right?
yeah.
And I want to see if there's any similarities and differences when it comes to generations and certain things that they like and don't like. Because obviously some common ones are like chewing with your mouth open,
Yep.
coughing without covering it, right? Like this kind of stuff.
I hate kids just as much as old Joe down the street.
Exactly.
I hate those darn kids.
What show did Bill Crosby have in the 90s?
What?
It was like a American home videos kind of thing. It was like,
yeah,
dang.
yeah. Oh, jeez. Oh, kids say the darndest things.
That's what it was.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to get that right in my head
Yeah, I
before we
know.
end. So next week is pet peeves. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
We should get a lot of fun things to be able to talk about that people can relate to for sure.
Yeah,
when it comes to
absolutely.
pet peeves. So until then, let's get this bread.
Acquire that grain
Till this week.
and have a great week.